Hi guys, welcome back. I hope you're all really well. I have had this photo on my hard drive for a long time. This is me lying in the water and my sister took the photo and I had planned for it to be an Ophelia-inspired oil painting. Well, I'm finally getting around to painting it. I haven't used oils in a long time and I think it's a bit intimidating to come back to a medium that you haven't used in a while. I find I often have to relearn techniques, and as I primarily use watercolors these days, it is quite a different mindset to have as they are very different than oil paints. But I felt inspired to start painting with oils again, so here I am. I started by mixing my colours, which I usually do, to try and get the general colour palette of the piece so that I can mix smaller colours within them and it doesn't take as long. And then I just started laying some of my colours down, starting with the face. I took my supplies outside quite early on in the painting and sat myself down right by the pond in which the photo was taken. And I ended up painting most of the piece right here, so I felt very inspired and almost like I was painting from life, even though I of course had my reference photo with my face on it. I think one of the main reasons I've stopped using oil paints as often is because I've gotten used to a certain way of painting with my watercolors, pencils, and even digital art that includes line work, more stylized characters with fantastical, sparkly, magical elements. And as I learnt to paint with oil paints sort of classically with realistic portraits and stuff, I do find it harder to mesh the two together. I would love to lean into a more fantastical style with my oil paint, so I'd like to spend more time painting with oils next year. I do love the way that it feels to paint with a thicker paint like acrylics and oils. It's very different than watercolor but beautiful in its own way. I'm glad that I did this painting and reminded myself why I loved it so much. The constant struggle I find as someone who's very interested in painting and art and many different mediums is just finding time for them all. It feels like I don't really have enough time to grow in all the directions I'd like to. And I'm always just thinking, I wish there were more hours in the day. I wish there were more days in the year. I wish I had more time. Even though I spend most of my time making art, I never feel like I have enough of it. I did love painting these lily pads. It was very beautiful to see all the different shapes and colours that they come in, whether they're upside down or lower in the water or overlapping each other. And there were yellow and purple and green ones. And there were so many, which is the main reason I decided to sketch out in pencil before I went in with my paint, just so that I had them positioned in their right spots. You honestly do have to count these things when you've got a lot of objects in your artwork that are interlocking with each other. Now, in my art, I almost always use a reference or two of some sort, and I especially love when I'm able to take them myself, which is why I love this piece even more, that I was able to orchestrate and be there for the whole process of making the reference and the art. It was a bit of effort as I had to get myself into the water, which was freezing cold, and I actually got a bee sting and had to direct my sister as to how to take the photos while I was trying to act peaceful and beautiful like I had no idea what was going on. And it often takes a lot of photos to get just one that captures the vision you had. And I do really love the composition of this photo, with the lower left having a lot of negative space that your eye can rest, and then all the complication of the lily pads and the upside down figure in it. I just think it works really well, and I suppose that's why I like the painting, because I based it very heavily on the photo. So if, like me, you can't afford to get all the fancy, amazing reference photos online, or you just have a very specific, clear vision of how you want it to look, I certainly would recommend taking your own references when you can. Even if you don't have fairy wings or a mermaid tail, there's always some way that you can fake it. In this case, I stayed very close to my reference photo, but most of the time it's me balancing on objects and holding things up strangely, but it does the job and I think makes you feel a lot more close to your art, and you can get just the pose and the lighting and the facial features that you want. I loved finishing it off with these little tiny sparkles of light all around the place. I really could have added 100 more of these, but I do know that less is more with the little highlights. So I just used the light from my reference and maybe added a couple extra. Well, here's the finished painting. I'm very happy with how she turned out, or I guess how I turned out, since that is me. Thank you very much for coming along with this process. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next video.